Hello, and welcome to Have Your Say. I'm Anne Minicozzi, founder of the Community Breakfast of the Main Line Undoing Racism Day, here with our co-host, Diana Robertson, president of the NAACP Mainline branch. And today our guests are from the Interfaith Hospitality Network of the Main Line. Allegra Cressman is the executive director, and Elizabeth Bertolet, kind of the operations person. So I don't know your
Program
official
manager.
Program manager. So we're talking about Interfaith Hospitality Network of the Main Line today.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So the first thing is really, could you introduce yourself and especially talk about your background, how long you've been working on homelessness in the area, and then Elizabeth also.
Sure. I've been in the field of homelessness and housing and working with low-income families for over 26 years. And my main focus always has been around homelessness and housing. Prior to being the executive director at Interfaith Hospitality Network of the Main Line, I was with another organization that also ran an emergency shelter program, another IHN program. So I've done that for over 19 years, working with families that are experiencing homelessness and seeing the joys and the lows of families struggling to find affordable housing and housing stability. It's just a calling and a field that I've been in for a long time, and I love it, and I feel very passionate that housing is a right for families and citizens that we have.
Great. And how about you, Elizabeth? How did you get started in all of this?
I've worked with families experiencing trauma and experiencing poverty for over 23 years now. And for me, the focus on being able to keep families together, even when they're experiencing traumas, experiencing loss, is really important. And so prior to working in homelessness, I worked in the foster care field. So I've done social work now for quite a while.
Okay. And can you talk about what happens when a family finds themselves homeless and how IHN, we can call it IHN now.
We can call it IHN.
How that works.
Yeah, IHN in the Main Line is a part of a continuum of care in Montgomery, especially in Montgomery County. And that continuum of care is under the Your Way Home system. And so when a family finds themselves homeless or facing any type of housing crisis, there's a one-call system. They can call 211, and they're assessed over the phone, asked a whole lot of different questions. And it's determined what level of services they need then. Do they just need a referral, or is the family saying that they're out on the street and have nowhere to go that night? And so a team from Street Outreach will go out and meet with the family, or even an individual, and talk to them about services, and then also make the referral to the open slots and shelter. So on any given night in Montgomery County, Street Outreach can estimate anywhere from 18 to 25 families have nowhere to be. They have no place to sleep, and there might not even be shelter bed openings. So IHN of the Main Line, we're a small part of that because we can offer shelter up to 4 families at a time. And so when we have an opening, we let the continuum know that there's available openings, and we're given a family immediately to enter into our program.
Okay, so the 211 number that someone can dial on their phone, is that a Montgomery County number?
It is really, it's a statewide number.
Oh,
It's
really?
true.
Okay.
So, but they'll ask you, what county are you calling from? And so if you're calling from Montgomery County, you can say, I'm in Montgomery County and I'm having a housing crisis. And then they slot you to the right screener to start asking questions and talking to you. And it's a wonderful system that has been created over the last 10 years of a database system and a shared database system. So all the shelter providers, anyone connected with a housing resource in Montgomery County is a part of the data system, and we all refer and communicate through that system.
The system really works to try to find the folks that are really most vulnerable and to get them the immediate services that they need. And so the street outreach team will be sent to meet directly with the family or the person who is reporting homelessness, and they will immediately get contact with a street outreach worker who can help meet their basic needs And so that means that if someone is in need of food, they can assist them with getting food, or in need of getting their medications, they can assist with that, as well as connecting to housing resources and shelter if need be.
So how does this program get communicated so that individuals would know that you exist? And
Right, so that we as an organization try to do a lot of publicity. We try to, be a part of community events, and the fact that we are a partner with Your Way Home in Montgomery County automatically gives us the referrals. The old system, which is the world I came from many years ago, is the families used to have to call. They would call a list of numbers, and they'd start calling churches, and they'd start calling organizations, and they would start calling. So they would spend an entire day seeking out resources. And now all they have to do is call 211, and they're given information, and the shelter is given that family name, and we can reach out right to them. So, but a big part of what we need to do is get our name out there, give our, have the opportunity to talk about our services, talk about who we are, what we're doing, all the success that comes out of our program, because it is funding based. Without funding, we can't operate.
Right.
So it is getting our name out there and talking to funders and talking to community businesses and developers and things like that. Like I said, we do 4 families at a time, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it is. It does translate to about 50 a year, about 15 families a year, and we have good success because it is so individualized. Elizabeth provides that individual case management and that constant case management, because our day center and the office are co-located in Norristown, and so we hear what's going on upstairs in the day center during the day. We know daily their schedule, the family schedule. We know what resources they need and who they need to be connected with.
From the minute that folks walk into the shelter, we're talking about, okay, what's the plan for finding housing? What's the plan for getting to the point where you can be independently housed? And so we really work at that from the very start. On any given night, or on a single night in Pennsylvania, there were 5,349 families that were considered to be street homeless or in shelters. But fortunately, because of programs like IHN of the Main Line, 87% of those families were able to be in shelter. And that's pretty impressive.
That's such a significant number,
Yeah.
87%.
It is. There's still much more to do. There are still families that are really, and persons that are really in need of shelter and services, and really affordable housing, which is the key
Right.
Yeah.
to becoming
We've
housed,
had
is
that
the
conversation
affordable
before.
housing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So as part of the programs, I would imagine you're dealing with the reason the family became homeless to begin with, and are there things as part of your program to help them very specifically, especially dealing with the children? So how does that impact them with school, and if they have school-age children and that type of thing?
Absolutely. I think when folks come in, we're looking at how did we get here from the very start? How did we get to this spot? And then we kind of backtrack and look at, okay, so from there, where do we go? Where do we go now? Where are we headed? And what's in between is the plan that we work together to develop. And so that's really, it's connecting folks to services that they can be a part of while they're in our program, as well as once they leave our program. And so whether that's income supporting services, whether that's education supportive services, whether it's addiction supporting services or mental health supportive services, those are the things that we work really hard with folks when they're in our program to connect to, so that they can be successful once they are housed and once they're in housing.
Could you talk about, without betraying any confidentiality, could you talk about one specific family as they walk through the process with IHN and becoming entered into the program, and even what a typical day might be like, and maybe what services they needed in particular?
Yeah, I have one family that comes to mind. She was a joy. It was a single mom. She actually grew up in the foster system, So I kind of, personally, I kind of keep a little tick sheet in my head of all of the single moms that we've met that have been through the foster system. And it's astounding, the numbers. But she came to our program and she had 2 little girls and no connections with services or resources at the time, and lost her housing through just various events. For a long time was bouncing and what we call couch surfing. So she would stay here or there with a friend, a foster sister, you know, things, different people, different connections, until a point where she could no longer stay on somebody's sofa. And so she found herself on the streets, begging at the local Wawa for money, for food for her and her children. And she came into our program, and Elizabeth sat with her and established some realistic goals, and she found safety in the evening host congregations that provide the evening sheltering, the overnight sheltering. And she was able to establish goals and get connected to a rapid rehousing provider. She found an educational program as a CNA. She graduated from that.
And that's a certified
nursing assistance program.
Assistant, okay.
So that, you know, once they graduate from that program, there's job opportunities.
Right.
Kids were in daycare. She, you know, you can fill in the gaps there. She's doing amazing.
Currently working full time in her chosen career path. And when I asked her what being part of the IHN mainline program meant to her, she said it meant I don't have to stand at Wawa and ask for food for my children.
Right.
It meant I knew where I could take my children every night and they would be safe and have something to eat.
Yeah, IHN is very different than some of our other shelters that are in Montgomery County in the fact that we rely on local host congregations. That's why it's the main line, because it's our host congregations are along the main line area. So the host congregations are really another piece of this for us. They do a lot of things that Elizabeth and I can't do in a professional, that they do that in that loving hospitality way. So our families during the day are at what we call our day facility from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. At 6 p.m. at night, we have a van and a van driver who's fabulous and really understanding of the families and also teaches other skills along the way in that transport. But he drives them to the local host congregation. So it could be here at Central Baptist, it could be, you know, at Wayne Presbyterian, it could be at Beth David, any one of our congregations that host for a week at a time. And the congregations then and other community members volunteer to serve a meal, to have that hospitality time of, you know, that evening time of sitting with and talking with our families. And then they set up rooms and create a private sleeping space for each family. And then they start that routine every morning, and every Sunday night they switch to another host congregation. So there's a lot going on by our families. You know, they have Elizabeth, you know, saying, what goals did you accomplish? Let me connect you to these professional things, these support systems. But they also have the love and the support and the kindness that they may not have had for a long time through the volunteers. And those soft skills that the volunteers bring to the table of modeling parenting, of even modeling, if it's a husband and wife serving, how husbands and wives interact together, are soft skills that are learned. And just the families walk away and say, I never knew a husband could treat a wife like that. Or I never
saw a man speak to a woman that way.
Right, or I never saw a mom.
My dad spoke to
I never saw a mom, if a family's volunteering, I never saw a mom manage dinner time that well. Maybe I can take that skill away.
My kids really like sitting at a table and eating dinner together. We never did that before. I think we're going to do that once we're housed.
Okay. So is domestic violence or those type of things part of how some of the families end up homeless?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of many reasons that folks find themselves in a homeless situation.
And we were talking a little bit before we started about how so many families are one paycheck away. There's so many examples of people not being paid enough through the minimum wage, and if someone becomes ill or has a car accident or
And
loses their job.
The affordability of housing, when you figure a two-bedroom rent can be over $1,000, and if someone's making a minimum wage, what's the statistic they have to work with?
I mean, you're looking at three minimum wage jobs at a time in order to be able to afford a two-bedroom
Apartment in Montgomery County.
Not good.
And I don't know what to do about that, but I know that we'll be talking more about affordable housing in the future, because it just seems to me, and maybe to other people too, that if you're working a full-time job and you're getting paid minimum wage, the minimum wage should be enough that you can afford to take care of yourself and your family. That it's just, it's
A living
unjust.
wage. It's not a living wage.
A living wage. That's a living wage, affordable housing. We need to talk about that in the future as well.
And I think the other part that you mentioned about the educational program, so like if somebody only has skills that they're limited to a minimum wage job, but then they can access programs where they can get certifications or learn other skills that would then enable them to get jobs that are above the minimum wage, then that would be helpful.
It's all
as
connected.
well.
It all really is connected.
And although that's ultimately the goal, for some folks, they really haven't had work experience when they come to us. We see a much younger population experiencing homelessness. And so for some of them, it really is about getting that first job, which often is a minimum wage job. There's so many barriers that families face. So I may have somebody in front of me that says, I want to work. I'm willing to work. I'll work 2 jobs. That's fine. But daycare's only open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's only so many hours that I can work without having that grandmother support of somebody that can take care of the little ones in the evening, or having that second spouse or second adult in the household who can provide child care.
And many of our families some are generational poverty, and some are experiencing this for the very first time. And so our approach is individualized for when those situations happen, because it's a different approach on how to help them best and how to set goals and thinking long term. Because our goal is to make their shelter stay as short as possible and get them in housing as quick as possible.
And housing that's going to be stable with skills that they can depend on.
Okay. And are there counseling services, like especially for the children, or if there are other problems such as mental health issues or those type of things that have create barriers as well?
There's a lot of support, and you had mentioned before about the children. And McKinney-Vento law helps children stay. It mandates that kids can stay at their school of origin. So the districts will bus back and forth, even if it's a district outside of the Norristown area. And we let parents choose, do you want to change them to the Norristown area, or do you want to stay at school of origin? There's all kinds of mental health services. There's all kinds of services that, very skilled at linking and connecting. And
although we provide case management services while they're in our shelter program, we really do like to connect folks with mental health services that they can continue with once they leave.
And really any services, we like to talk about, we want their roots to be deep in the community that they're going to eventually live in. I don't want your roots to be deep with IHN as a participant, because you're not going to be with us forever. So we want you to dig your roots deep and make those connections in the community, and we try to do that as best we can, so they can be self-sustaining and supporting of themselves and know who to turn to for help in their community if the issues arise in the future.
And what you said is a great transition to what I want to make sure that we cover, is how can our viewers and people in the community help, either as a host congregation or a support congregation. And then also we need to talk about the special event that's happening in April. And people can help that way too.
We do have 10 consistent support host congregations. That means each one of those congregations have taken either 5 for 6 weeks a year to host our families, and they rotate on a regular schedule. And so that congregation is responsible for providing volunteers. And so it can be up to 50 people a week to support the program and volunteer. But it's such an amazing thing for volunteers out of the congregations. But that doesn't mean community people can't volunteer. So if you live in a community where one of our host congregations are, we'd love to connect you with the host. And if you feel passionate and even families, as you know, I really strongly say families should serve together and volunteer together. It's such an educational process for young children, even teenagers. A lot of them have to get volunteer hours in anyway. So it's a great, opportunity to do that. And we have up to about 27 support congregations that either send volunteers that they can't physically host for a week at a time in the church, but they'll send volunteers or financially supporting us. And we desperately are in need of financial support to continue the program. So we are looking for any community donors, anyone that wants a business, corporation, anybody that wants to sponsor or support us in financial ways is, always welcome.
Do you get funding from the county?
So we're getting a small bit of money from small bit of money from the county for our program, and it's for that funding helps support the van driver, and it helps support a little bit of Elizabeth's salary and the case management aspect of our services. But it's definitely not enough because we're operating an office and a day facility. So I got PICO bills, I got water sewer bills, I have toilet paper to purchase. We have all kinds of things. And the clients have needs occasionally that we like to we need to support them with too.
Well, the special event that IHN is having in April is a good way for people to learn about IHN, but it also is going to be a nice event.
Yes. So our annual spring fundraiser is going to be held on April 28th at Appleford Estates from 5 to 7:30. We're looking for sponsors. So we're looking for businesses that would love to sponsor us, and they get their name recognized in an ad in our booklet that we'll put out. But it's a great opportunity to meet all of the congregations and the volunteers, and our board of directors is amazing. It's local community people that all have a passion and a commitment to this. We are an organization that's 27 years old. It started very grassroots, and many of those same host congregations that started 27 years ago are still part of the weekly hosting. And so we're looking for, and they've aged over the time, so we are looking for new, younger, sponsors, new, younger volunteers. And the event will be wonderful. Jazz Sanctuary will be there, and their music is fabulous. The food is fabulous. So if anybody's interested, they can reach out to us.
And the keynote speaker
is
this year?
Mark Tolden, Chief of Police of Norristown, and he's wonderful.
Yes.
He really, he's law enforcement, but he has a very fabulous message as the Chief of Police of Norristown, and just you can hear his commitment to our community and his commitment to those folks that are struggling. So it's exciting to have him coming. And we'll be honoring some of our coordinators, church coordinators that have coordinated and run the program for their church for many years, that are retiring and bringing on new blood to take over. So we'll honor them.
And you have a particular person you're honoring this year?
We do. We have one of our founders, Susan Ayers, who was not only the president of our board at one time, but she's still actively involved in volunteering at Church of the Redeemer. She'll be honored for her time in service that she was with us, and continues to be supportive of IHN. It'll be a fun event.
It'll be very nice with the music, and I know the food will be good too.
Yeah, and Appleford is just a beautiful setting.
At the end of April, so it'll be springtime.
Hopefully warmer.
Nice lovely heaters, even if it's chilly. Really great.
Fun event.
So I keep going back to the children because that's
That's important.
yeah,
And
because
they are our loves. They just say it.
because I'm wondering quickly. So the children who are going to school, let's say they're staying at the schools that they've been at, are they whatever they're getting, the services or the connections? Are they basically, is it anonymous in terms of other students knowing that they're
Absolutely. It is. It really is.
Because I could imagine that could be a stigma and a problem for
generally only the school transportation and guidance counselor may
Each
know.
school district has a liaison that works specifically with the families.
Okay.
And so they really work kind of behind the scenes in getting folks connected to what they need to be connected to, such as, the transportation system and what that'll look like. And so nobody else really needs to know. That liaison is there to assist with everything that's needed.
Our kids, homeless folks, there's such a stigma around homelessness.
Absolutely.
And our families, you wouldn't be able to pick them out of a crowd. They look and are just like everybody else. They've just had a crisis or a bump in the road or a tragic trauma or something has happened, but they look just like everybody else. The woman handing your McDonald's may be homeless.
Right.
The cashier at the checkout may be homeless. The phlebotomist at the lab may be homeless, and you don't know. And the same with our kids.
Right.
You can't distinguish them, and they're not picked out. And the districts are very careful about privacy and caring for them too.
As are we at IHM Mainline. So our building is a house. It looks like any other house on the street. There isn't a sign out that says shelter.
Great.
Folks are getting off the bus just with everybody else. Children are getting off the bus with everybody else.
Looks like they're walking
coming
into
into
their
their home.
apartment.
Right.
Or into their home. Yep.
Well, that's great. And it's, as we wind up, it sounds like these services are really great services, and just noting ways that we can actually spread the word, get that information out, and be able to have our viewers to communicate that information as well. And so as we conclude our program today, understand that this is a continuing problem, but your services, noting that you can call 211 and get the information that you need, get the help that you need, and that folks can let other people know, and you're able to have your say. Thank you.
Thank you.